Bundesting! Bundesting!
What's up, Staunch gang? I hope you guys are having one hell of a staunch WEEN. I know I'm having a great time making these videos for you. This one, I gotta say, has been a staunch WEEN for the books, and there's still some time left in October, and I plan on getting a lot more stuff out there for you. Let me know what you want down below. But one thing I definitely wanted to do as part of this year's staunch WEEN is touch on 5 particular films. Now, I might do more different lists like this, but for tonight, I'm talking about 5 underrated horror sequels from the 90s. Kicking things off, we have Gate 2. Now, this film, of course, is directed by the legendary Tibor Takacs. He's done plenty of other great films. He did the original The Gate, not just Gate, but as well as one of my other favorite films, I, Madman. Maybe I'll talk about that one some other time. But here in Gate 2, we get a pretty neat continuance of the original film. For instance, you would think the original being a Steven Dorff vehicle, he was real young at the time, so, what can you say? But Steven Dorff does not return for this film. Now, who we do get, though, is the nerdy best friend from the original, Louis Tripp, and a very, very young and stunning Pamela Adlon, pre-Pamela Adlon. She is so young here. I think this may have been like the first time I remember seeing her. And of course, we all know her as Bobby Hill, but I'm a huge Pamela Adlon fan, and she always kind of stuck in my head from this film. Now, this one goes a lot of different places than the original did. It's a bigger film, you know what I mean? Things happen. There's the demons from the original. They kind of come back, and then, in classic horror form, at the end, you got a giant one, you know what I mean? And all the forced perspective stuff they did in the original film, it comes back just like twofold here. They did some very, very stunning practical effects in this film. And it's just all worthwhile. You're not going to be bored checking out this flick. And it does go in kind of a more like teen angsty direction. There's like these bullies, and they're picking on our dog Terry, Louis Tripp, and he's trying to impress the girl, and it goes that whole route. And it does kind of feel like an 80s movie, and perhaps that's because it was shot in the late 80s. It didn't get released till in the early 90s, and then it kind of just got shit out on video. So what are you gonna do? Like, I remember watching this on cable. It was on a lot. But for the landscape of horror at the time, 1990, this is one heck of a movie, and I feel like it's well remembered amongst horror fans as a pretty legit sequel. And this movie has one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen in any movie ever. Number 2, we have Children of the Corn 2. Now, this flick, man, this one, I'm not a big Children of the Corn fan, I gotta say, but this one picks up directly where the original left off. I love it when horror movies do that. It literally, like the kids that were left over from the original movie, they kind of get bussed into another town, and there's all this controversy, and the townsfolk don't want them there. Especially the main guy, he's like this real creepy kid. His name's goddamn, what's his name? Micah, I believe it is. And like here, he's so menacing for this little kid. I've always found this dude's presence in this film to be a little off-putting in the best ways. And there's this real kind of cheesy Native American vibe here, and this Native American actor that comes in and kind of spoils the film with his bad acting. But this is still a very 90s film. There's like nudity, there's a lot of teen stuff happening, there's a lot of will they, won't they's, and a lot of subplots too. There's like, spirits and different like prayers they do, and this movie goes a lot of places, some of them unwarranted, but it's all done so well, because I swear not like 5 minutes goes by, it feels like, until someone is just getting offed in the best ways. Now, whether or not it's a worthy sequel to the original Children of the Corn, it is a fun film that I do think you will enjoy. And maybe it's just the director, like he just does fun movies. I don't know. He did Dr. Jekyll and Miss Hyde. Check out my review on that one next. But I do highly recommend Children of the Corn 2 for a mean-spirited, fun night. Up next, we have Prom Night 4, another great 90s film, this one from 1991. Now, this one is directed by the legendary Canadian director Clay Boris. I totally get if you haven't heard of the guy, but I would recommend checking out Quiet Cool for one hell of an action flick. But this dude really brings it, and we're talking mean-spirited films or mean-spirited horror sequels. I mean, I gotta say, this one fits the bill. This is another one that kind of, it doesn't necessarily pick up where, the previous one left off, but it does play off the elements there. Like, for instance, in Prom Night 3, the events that happened at the beginning of that film, well, you kind of see that something else kind of happened there that splintered off into the events of Prom Night 4. I don't want to ruin it for you because this is a great movie. I've covered it extensively. I've interviewed Clay Boris. You can check that out on the channel. But I gotta recommend this film again. It's just such a fun flick. There's like a relevant young cast, and it's one of the only times I can remember where the villain is a priest, and he's getting like, he has like this stigmata, and he seems to be getting directions from somewhere, whether it's a god or whatever. But this dude, whether he lost his mind or whatever's going on here, he is taking these kids out. And this is one hell of a movie, and I've always thought that the villain here was just a cut above the rest, and I wish he got more respect. Please, right now, go check out Prom Night 4. Up next, we have Amityville Dollhouse. Now, I almost wanted to throw in Amityville Time's Up, I believe, or It's About Time, depending where you're at. Both of those movies are pretty damn good, and as far as Amityville sequels go, I gotta say they're the best of the bunch. However, tonight I will be recommending Amityville Dollhouse, as that one really seems to fit the bill. That's the one that came out, that being relevant, that came out while I was growing up, that I saw on the latest release section, and I was like, hey, I remember seeing the last one. Let's see what's happening here, which is something you used to be able to do with these Amityville movies. And this one, we're headed a little later on. This is 1996. I remember renting this when I was about 10 years old, and it actually freaked me the hell out. Now, upon rewatching, it doesn't hold up that well, but it's just done so good. I mean, the movies just don't look like this anymore. What can I say? And it has that tone, the tone. I've talked about that tone previously with stuff like Sometimes They Come Back Again. It has that visceral tone where anything can happen at any moment. And it's like they go out of their way to have like a whimsical feel to it, kind of a storybook kind of feel. And it all really works because, I mean, it's juxtaposed with some pretty horrific stuff. They take on like the thing that Amityville movies sort of did, where you have like this demonic presence and they keep showing him and he pops up for like scare tactics here and there or whatever. But I mean, hey, it's the 90s and it all works. This is the era. This from 96 to I'd say from about 95 to about 98. You didn't have to take things so seriously to have a good time. And people dog on 90s horror a lot because, I guess it's not as sophisticated as it should have been or could have been. I love it. You can let your hair down with this film and you can just sit back and have a great time. In fact, that's to be said with every film I'm recommending tonight. Which brings us to our final film of the night, Waxwork 2. Now this movie, I grew up with this one. It is a classic. I mean, I think I may like this more than the original. The original, of course, kind of taking place all inside a waxwork museum. I don't really want to ruin it for you, but if we're talking like a bigger sequel, I guess much like The Gate, this one is just simply a bigger movie, and it also goes in some very strange directions than the original did. In fact, I mean, I don't even understand why this one's called Waxwork 2. I guess that's why the Lost in Time moniker is added there, because they do a complete, just basically a 180 when it comes to the storytelling. But it's one of those sequels that, of course, picks up directly where the original left off. And now, this is from horror maestro, or I say genre maestro, really, Anthony Hickox. This dude has done pretty much everything you could think of. Now, he's been all over the map, and I always welcome his presence. Whenever you see Anthony Hickox's name on something, you know that you're getting the mark of quality. And here, like I said, it's just a much bigger sequel. We have Zach Galligan reprising his role from the original, and then his girlfriend, I would say, is also reprising the role, but the actress is recast. So, but things kind of kick off here, and real quick it gets wacky. And this film basically, instead of being lost in a waxwork and being, consumed by the set pieces in the actual waxwork museum, this time they are literally traveling, I guess through time is what they're hinting at, but basically what they're doing is kind of like jumping to different movie scenarios, different movie genres. Something that was also featured in another genre film I recently covered. Check out my Stay Tuned review next, why don't you? So there's a lot of the same vibes there. This one is a lot more funnier than the original. And along with that, I mean, we get some badass cameos in this film. We get Bruce Campbell in a kind of like 13 Ghosts House on Haunted Hill black and white horror story. And he is hamming it up, and it is amazing. We get a cameo from David Carradine, who's in kind of like, I guess this part of the film, they're kind of like in the medieval times and whatnot. David Carradine is listed as the beggar. Strange. See, another fun cameo we also get is Maxwell Caulfield. You may know him from The Boys Next Door, Empire Records, Grease 2. Here, he is in, I guess the only thing you can compare this to is an Alien parody, because it goes full Aliens, and it is great. They do what they can. You can tell they're working on a limited budget here, but for what limited budget they have, Anthony Hickox knocks it out of the park. And another very, very odd cameo I gotta mention is Drew Barrymore, who pops up in a Nosferatu-esque scene at the end of the film. Because at the end, you know, things get crazy, and they're traveling through all these different dimensions, and Zach Galligan's trying to save his girl, and he keeps getting caught up in all these different movie scenarios, and it's a wacky good time, that third act, and it really goes balls to the wall, much like Stay Tuned. So I gotta say, maybe check out Stay Tuned and Waxwork 2 for a fun double feature. And you know what else this movie does that just makes it an instant classic? Is we get a Waxwork 2 rap at the end, a full-on music video. Goddamn, I miss the 90s. So there you have it. That's my 5 underrated horror sequels from the 90s. Now, this list goes on, obviously, and I will be doing more of these type of videos, you know, a little quick kind of recommendation, top 5s, if you will. So if you guys want to see more of those, let me know down below. Please check out my Tales from the Crypt reviews I've been doing. Those have been a lot of fun. Check out everything I've been doing for Staunch TV via Staunch WEEN. And stay tuned, because there's still a lot more coming, man. I got a lot of stuff planned. I'm going to be featured on the Beer and a Movie podcast. That's my good friend Joe Hilliard's podcast. I'll put the link down there below. Go check out some episodes before I'm on there. And I will be there discussing the original Funny Games from 1997, as well as the infamous Brain Dead, aka Dead Alive, one of my all-time favorite movies. So I'll be clipping those out and putting them up here and whatnot, and that's going to be a great time. And I'm also going to be having a very special Halloween episode of my podcast, Two Corys Forever. So go follow Two Corys Forever on Instagram and Facebook as far as our social media posts and whatnot. But of course, follow us on Spotify. Thank you guys so much for watching. It is Staunch WEEN. I will see you soon.